I buried my 8-year-old son alone under a gray November sky in the Pine Grove Cemetery outside Hartford, Connecticut, the kind of place where the headstones lean like they're whispering regrets to the wind. The priest mumbled something about eternal rest, but all I could hear was the echo of Tommy's laugh from last summer's backyard barbecues, cut short by a drunk driver who walked away with a slap on the wrist. No one showed up. Not my husband, who'd vanished 6 months earlier with his yoga instructor side piece. Not my parents, who claimed a prior commitment in Palm Beach. And sure as hell not my golden child sister, Victoria, who was too busy fittings for her Vera Wang gown. But 2 days later, as I sat in the probate lawyer's office staring at Tommy's $850,000 trust fund, proceeds from his late grandparents' life insurance that I'd earmarked for his future, they waltzed in like they owned the place, demanding I hand it over for Vicky's dream wedding because, in their words, family comes first. I laughed then, a raw, jagged sound that made the lawyer flinch and adjust his tie. Family. These vultures had picked my bones clean long before Tommy's casket hit dirt. It started 20 years ago, back when I was Isabella the screw-up Hargrove, fresh out of community college with a secret that could have torched our perfect WASP dynasty. Dad's affair with his secretary, the one that ended in a hushed-up payout and Mom's Valium-fueled breakdowns. I'd taken the fall for it, confessed to borrowing company funds to cover the hush money, dooming my shot at Yale Law and landing me in a dead-end admin job, while Vicky sailed through Princeton on Dad's connections. They called it sacrifice. I called it the first cut in a lifetime of bleeding for them. But that probate meeting, that was the spark. Mom, with her Botox-smooth forehead and pearls clutched like a shield, leaned across the desk and cooed. Izzy, darling, Vicky's marrying Senator Ellis's son. This wedding could secure our legacy. Yours too, if you play along. Dad nodded, his Rolex glinting under the fluorescent lights, adding, Tommy wouldn't want his money wasted on bitterness. Think of the family. Vicky just smirked from the corner, scrolling her phone, her engagement ring, a rock that could fund a small nation's GDP, catching the light like a taunt. I signed nothing that day. Instead, I drove straight to the one place in this godforsaken state where desperation meets desperation, a nondescript clinic in New Haven's Warehouse District, the kind of spot whispered about in dark web forums and dive bar confessions. Dr. Elias Crow, disgraced neuroscientist, peddler of experimental neural transfers, body swaps for the terminally vengeful, the irreversibly broken. 50 grand up front, no questions, and a one-way ticket into someone else's skin. I'd found out about Crow through a Reddit rabbit hole 6 months back, right after Tommy's accident. Late nights blurring into dawn, chasing ghosts of conspiracy theories because the official report stank. The driver was some low-level fixer for Dad's real estate firm, the kind who handled problems with a bottle of Glenfiddich and a blind eye from the cops. Tommy's death wasn't random. It was collateral in their empire building. And Crow? He was the devil's bargain, a botched transplant survivor who'd cracked the code on consciousness transference, swapping souls like swapping SIM cards. Illegal as hell, sure. FDA blacklisted him after a senator's wife ended up catatonic in the wrong body. But for those with nothing left to lose, it was resurrection. I wired the money from Tommy's trust that night, my hands shaking as I typed the address into my GPS. By midnight, I was strapped to a gurney in a basement lab that smelled of ozone and regret, for lines snaking into my veins like promises from a snake oil salesman. Consciousness is just data, Isabella, Crow rasped, his face half-shadowed by the hum of servers whirring in the corner. We'll map yours onto Victoria's neural net. You'll wake up in her body, her life, her wedding, her power. But remember, swaps are volatile. Memories bleed. And reversal? That's a myth. I didn't care. As the sedatives kicked in, the world dissolved into static, and for a split second, I saw Tommy's face, smiling, before everything flipped. Waking up was like surfacing from a drowning dream. Silk sheets tangling my legs, champagne flutes clinking on a nightstand, and a mirror across the room reflecting Vicky's flawless face staring back. High cheekbones, honey blonde waves, eyes like emeralds laced with venom. I touched her cheek, felt the plump Botox lips, the manicured nails. Isabella Hargrove was gone, buried in a shell back in that lab, comatose and waiting for a miracle that wouldn't come. But I was here, in the penthouse overlooking Manhattan's skyline, Vicky's life unfolding like a bad remake of my own. My phone, her phone, buzzed with texts. Babe, fittings at Kleinfeld's at 10? From the fiancé, Chad Ellis, Junior Senator Spawn with a trust fund dirtier than Dad's ledgers. And from Mom. Darling, the caterer's confirming the lobster thermidor, $200 a plate. Worth every penny. I gagged, the bile tasting like Vicky's kale smoothie. But rage? It burned clean, sharpening everything. First things first, access. Vicky's laptop was open on the desk, password protected but crackable with the sticky notes she hid under the mouse pad. Her birth date, because of course the princess was that predictable. Files upon files. Wedding spreadsheets ballooning past 7 figures. Vendor contracts laced with kickbacks to Dad's shell companies. And buried in a subfolder labeled Family Matters. Emails from a decade ago, time-stamped right after my embezzlement confession. Dad to his lawyer. Push the plea. Isabella takes the hit. We bury the affair. Vicky's future can't afford scandals. Mom's reply. Our girl will understand. She's always been the strong one. Strong one. The words twisted like a knife. I'd shielded them, lied to cops, rotted in probation while they toasted Vicky's Ivy League acceptance. And Tommy? A deeper dive revealed bank transfers. $50,000 from Dad's offshore account to that fixer driver the night of the crash. Handle the loose end, the email read. Loose end. My boy. Their empire's roadkill. I slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering. This wasn't just revenge, it was reclamation. But swaps had rules, or so Crow had warned in his pre-op ramble. Vicky's memories flickered at the edges, flashes of sorority hazing, Chad's coke-fueled rages, the quiet thrill of sabotaging my job interviews back in the day. You always were the ugly duckling, Izzy, one fragment sneered. I shoved it down, focusing on the plan. The wedding was in 3 weeks at the family estate in Greenwich. 500 guests, A-list caterers, a string quartet flown in from Vienna. Perfect stage for the fall. Step 1. Infiltrate deeper. I slipped into Vicky's walk-in closet, the size of my old apartment, and pulled on a Chanel sheath that hugged curves I'd only dreamed of. Downtown to the lawyer's office. Mine, technically, but now accessed via Vicky's concerned sister, Alias. The poor sap, Mr. Wilkins, bought the act hook, line, and sinker, wide-eyed sympathy as I confessed doubts about the trust fund transfer. Isabella's unstable, grieving. We wouldn't want her squandering Tommy's legacy on therapy or whatever. He nodded, drafting the petition to redirect funds to the Family Foundation, code for Vicky's nuptials. By noon, it was filed, sealing their greed in legalese. But power's a drug, and Vicky's life was laced with it. Lunch at Le Bernardine with Mom, where she prattled about centerpieces while I probed. What about Izzy? She seemed off at the probate. Mom's martini paused mid-sip. Oh, your sister's always been dramatic. That embezzlement mess? We saved her from prison. Saved. The word hung like smoke. I smiled Vicky's megawatt smile, clinking glasses. You're right, Mom. Family first. Afternoons blurred into reconnaissance, schmoozing Chad at his Wall Street firm, where whispers of insider trading flowed like the free scotch. He pawed at me, her, in the elevator, oblivious to the venom in my eyes. Babe, after the wedding, we're golden. Dad's pulling strings for that ambassadorship. Golden. Tommy's trust would pave their path to D.C., while my boy's grave grew weeds. Nights, alone in the penthouse, Vicky's memories clawed harder. A fight with Dad over my betrayal. His slap that left a bruise hidden under makeup. You're the spare, Victoria. Act like it. Spare. We'd both been pawns, but she'd worn the crown of denial. By week 2, the cracks showed. My real body, Isabella's husk, hit the news. Missing mother found catatonic in abandoned clinic. Cops swarmed Crow's lab, but he was ghosts. Poof, into the ether with his servers. Mom called in a panic. Vicky, have you heard? Your sister's gone vegetative or something. Tragic, but the timing, with the wedding. I feigned tears, the salt stinging unfamiliar lashes. We'll handle it, Mom. Pour one out for Izzy at the rehearsal dinner. The plan crystallized then, dark and diamond sharp. I'd let them have the wedding, let them crow about their triumph, then detonate it all. Hack the vendors for inflated invoices, leak the affair docs to the Times, tip the feds on Dad's offshore slush. But the real bomb? An anonymous dossier to Chad, photos of Vicky's, my borrowed, Flirtations with his best man, doctored just enough to sting. Controversial? Hell yes, framing the innocent for infidelity, even if it was payback. But as Vicky's ghost whispered justifications in my ear, I wondered, was I avenging Tommy, or just becoming the monster they raised? The estate loomed like a white elephant on the Sound, manicured lawns rolling to the water's edge, where yachts bobbed like obedient dogs. Guests milled in pastel seersucker, champagne flutes sweating in the June humidity. Wait, no, it was November, but in my rage-fueled haze, seasons blurred. 3 weeks had flown, a whirlwind of fittings and florists, and now D-Day, the ceremony. I stood in the bridal suite, Vicky's gown a cascade of ivory silk and Swarovski, heavy as chains. Mom fussed with the veil, her eyes glassy from preemptive toasts. You look ethereal, darling. This is our redemption. Redemption. The word nearly broke me. Downstairs, Dad schmoozed donors, his laugh booming like thunder over the string quartet's Vivaldi. Chad waited at the altar, all-American jaw set in nervous triumph. And somewhere in the crowd, a private eye I'd hired, paid from skimmed wedding funds, nursed a Scotch dossier in his briefcase. As I walked the aisle, petals crunching under Manolos, the weight of 2 lives pressed down. Guests cooed, cameras flashed, vows exchanged in a blur. In sickness and health, till death do us part. I slipped the ring on Chad's finger, feeling Vicky's memories surge, a genuine flicker of love amid the opportunism. God, she wasn't all venom, just poisoned by the same well. But Tommy's face flashed thin, small and trusting, and I steeled. The reception tent glittered like a fever dream. Lobster towers, caviar bumps, a cake 6 tiers tall. Toasts flowed, Senator Ellis praising family values, Dad droning about legacy. My turn came after the cake cutting, mic in hand, smile fixed. To family, I began, voice steady as Vicky's sorority drawl. The ones who bleed for you. Take the fall so you shine. Murmurs rippled. Mom's brow furrowed from the head table. Like when I, Victoria, watched my sister Isabella shoulder Dad's mistakes. Embezzlement? Huh. Try covering an affair that could have sunk us all. Gasps. Dad's fork clattered. I pressed on, pulling the flash drive from my bouquet, hacked emails projecting on the tense screens behind me. And Tommy? My nephew. Your grandson. Roadkill for a fixer on payroll. $50,000 to handle it. Chaos erupted. Shrieks. Phones whipping out. Security lumbering forward. Chad grabbed my arm. Vicky, what the fuck? I twisted free, veil tearing. Not Vicky, Chad. Isabella. Borrowed her skin to give you all a taste of hell. The tent imploded, guests fleeing, caterers gawking as cops' sirens wailed in the distance. Mom collapsed into a chair, wailing. Dad lunged, face purple, but Private Eye stepped in, cuffs glinting. Feds have been waiting, Hargrove. Wire fraud, manslaughter cover-up, the works. Vicky's body trembled, adrenaline spiking, but triumph soured fast. Because as the screens looped those emails, one caught my eye. A reply from Isabella me, to Dad, post-affair. I'll take the hit. For Vicky. For us. Wait. No. Deeper scan in the panic. Timestamps fudged, but the signature. Mine. I'd known. Not fully, the affair's depth buried, but enough to greenlight the lie. And Tommy? A follow-up chain. My own consult with the fixer, months before the crash. Keep an eye on Vicky's rivals, it had read. Collateral. My doing, outsourced guilt. The twist hit like a freight train. I'd been the architect, not the victim. Vicky's memories flooded now, unbidden, her silent horror at my machinations, her pleas ignored. I'd raised her as the villain to absolve my sins, dooming Tommy in the crossfire of my ambition. The cops dragged Dad away. Mom stared, betrayed anew. Chad backed off, disgust twisting his face. And me? In Vicky's shell, unraveling. I slipped out amid the melee, down to the water's edge, gown sodden with dew. The Sound lapped black and indifferent. Call Crow for reversal? Too late. Labrated, he vanished. Live as Vicky, Queen of Ashes? Or confess, swap back to Catatonia? The debatable end. Justice served, but at what cost? Tommy's trust frozen in litigation, family shattered. I waded in, silk billowing like a shroud, debating one final plunge. Redemption's a bitch. Sometimes, the monster wins. The The salt air clawed at my throat as I trudged back up the lawn, Vicky's heels sinking into the turf like accusations. Sirens painted the night in blues and reds, guests scattering like roaches under a flipped stone. A uniform grabbed my elbow. "Ma'am, we need to," but I flashed Vicky's license, the one with her flawless headshot. "I'm the victim here. Call Senator Ellis." Privilege, the great equalizer, even in freefall. They hesitated, radioing it in, and just like that, I was bundled into a cruiser, not as perp, but witness. Perfect cover to vanish while the Hargrove empire crumbled. Interrogation room at the Greenwich PD smelled of stale coffee and desperation, a far cry from the penthouse's ocean views. Detectives, a grizzled vet named Kowalski and his whip-smart partner, Ruiz, grilled me over lukewarm styrofoam cups. "Ms. Hargrove, Victoria, you're saying your father orchestrated a hit-and-run on your own nephew?" Kowalski's bushy brows knit, skepticism thick as his accent. I leaned into Vicky's poise, crossing legs that felt foreign still, the silk pooling like spilled milk. Not just that. Embezzlement, tax evasion, insider tips to Chad's firm. I found the files, couldn't let it slide. Lies wove seamless with half-truths. Vicky's memories supplied the cadence, the casual cruelty. Ruiz tapped her pen, eyes narrowing. "And your sister? Isabella. She's... What, catatonic? You think she planted this?" I faltered then, the bleed intensifying, flashes of my old self in that gurney, monitors beeping like a dirge. "No. Izzy's the hero. Took the fall for Dad years ago. This is her revenge, channeled through me." They exchanged glances, the kind that scream, "Crazy rich white girl." But the evidence mounted. Feds swarming the estate, laptops seized, Dad in zip ties snarling about family loyalty. By dawn, I was released into protective custody, code for Ellis family lawyers swooping in, Chad's absence a screaming void. Back in the city, the penthouse loomed empty, wedding fallout splashed across TMZ. Hargrove Heir's nuptials nightmare, murder cover-up? Vicky's phone exploded, friends ghosting, vendors suing, mom's voicemails a slurry of sobs. "How could you, Vicky? After everything." Everything. The word echoed as I rifled drawers for passports, cash stashes, Vicky's escape fund, ironically built on skimmed trust dividends. But escape to where? South America? A cabin in the Adirondacks? Tommy's ghost tugged, unfinished. The twist gnawed deeper now, burrowing like termites in drywall. That email chain, I dismissed it as forgery at first, but cross-referencing with Vicky's archived texts painted horror. Pre-crash, my voice, tinny over speakerphone, to the fixer. "Vicky's got competition for that internship. Senator's kid sniffing around. Make sure it doesn't stick." The accident that killed Tommy? En route from a playdate near the rival's route. Collateral, my ass, architected blindness. I'd outsourced the dirt, preserved Vicky's shine at any cost. And the affair? My confession wasn't coerced, it was calculus. Yale for me meant exposing Dad's rot. Probation let Vicky ascend untainted. I'd built their throne on my spine. Guilt hit like withdrawal, Vicky's body rebelling. Nausea, migraines, neural feedback from the swap fraying wires. Crow's warning replayed. Memories merge. You become them. Nights dissolved into fever dreams. Tommy's small hand in mine, morphing to Vicky's manicured claw. Dad's slap landing on my cheek, not hers. I needed reversal or absolution. A dark web dive. Using Vicky's crypto wallet, tracked Crow to a Fleabag motel in Bridgeport. Risky, but rage overrode reason. The motel was a squat concrete bunker off I-95, neon vacancy flickering like a migraine. Room 12. Door ajar, the scent of solder and regret. Crow hunched over a jury-rigged rig, wires snaking from a salvaged MRI coil. "You," he croaked, not looking up. The Hargrove switch. Volatile, your host's psyche's fighting back. I slammed the door, Vicky's voice steel. "Fix it. Swap me out." He laughed, a wet hack. Reversal suicide, neural overwrite. 80% coma, 20 death. But his eyes gleamed, feral. I could stabilize. For a price. Your body's assets, Tommy's trust, once the dust settles. Vulture. But what choice? Deal. Strapped in again, the machine whirred to life, consciousness fracturing like glass under a boot. Flashes, Vicky's wedding night fantasies, my prom disasters, Dad's boardroom rages, Tommy's bedtime stories. Merge. And in the vortex, truth inverted fully, Vicky knew. All of it. Her memories confessed, eavesdropping on my fixer calls, begging me to stop, silenced by threats of disinheritance. She played complicit, sipping the poisoned chalice, but cracks showed. Anonymous tips to child services pre-crash, buried by Dad's pull. Not villain, victim, like me. We both danced for their strings. Static cleared. I woke in limbo, neither body claiming full. Crow dead. Heart attack mid-transfer, rig sparking. Alone. Hybrid. Phone buzzed. Ruiz. Miss Hargrove? We need you downtown. Isabella's awake. Says you're the one who planned the hit. Awake? My old shell stirring, Vicky's essence leaking back? Or me? Fragmented? Downtown. Sterile interview room redux. There I was, Isabella's face, gaunt and haunted, eyes mine but softer. Vicky, she whispered as I entered. No. The swap had rebounded. Partial, souls tangled like earbuds in a pocket. We stared, mirrors of monstrosity. We did this, I said. For them. Cops watched, confused, lawyers hovered. Confession time. The affair, the fixer, the fun grabs. Tapes rolled, deals cut, reduced sentences for full disclosure. But the real climax? Facing Mom in the visitor's room at Danbury fed, her through plexiglass, diminished without pearls. Girls. What? Vicky's voice from my lips. Because you made us. Details poured. My complicity, Vicky's silent sabotage, Tommy's death a shared stain. Mom crumpled, whispering. I knew about the driver. Thought it was just business. Business. The final betrayal, her hand in the wheel. Release came slow. House arrest in the penthouse, therapy mandates, trust fund liquidated for victim funds, Tommy's legacy, redeemed. Chad bolted, Dad rotted in white-collar hell. Vicky and I? Inseparable now, a dyad in one body or split. Docs couldn't tell. We wrote the book, anonymous, proceeds to drunk-driving charities. Happy? Tragic? Debatable. Some hailed us whistleblowers, others, vengeful harpies. But in quiet moments, by Tommy's grave, we whispered apologies to the wind. Revenge tasted like ash, but truth? It set us free, or fractured us forever. Months bled into a hazy routine, the penthouse a gilded cage overlooking a city that no longer felt like home. House arrest chafed, ankle monitor beeping like a petulant heartbeat, court dates dotting the calendar like landmines. Vicky and I cohabited this neural mess, her essence a passenger in Isabella's revived shell, my consciousness piloting with intermittent blackouts. Mornings, I'd wake to her handwriting on the fogged mirror. Your move today, don't fuck up my skincare routine. Even fractured, she snarked like the old days. Therapy was a circus. Dr. Lena Voss, shrink, probing our merged psyche with the delicacy of a bomb squad. You're a chimera, she'd say, scribbling notes. 2 traumas, 1 vessel. The swap didn't just exchange bodies, it fused grudges. Sessions unearthed landmines. Vicky's buried abortion at 19, hushed by Mom's family image decree, my sabotaged bar exam, Dad's test of loyalty. We'd laugh-cry through it, voices overlapping like a bad duet. We were the strong ones, Vicky'd murmur, and the stupid ones. The trust fund saga dragged, probate battles turning Tommy's $850,000 into a legal piñata. Plaintiffs lined up, crash victims' families, IRS auditors smelling blood. We fought for diversion. A foundation in Tommy's name, funding sobriety programs and neural ethics research, Crow's ghost lingering. Controversial? Damn right. Tabloids screamed, killer kin launder legacy, painting us as silver spoon sociopaths dodging karma. Online sleuths doxed the penthouse. Hate mail piled like snowdrifts. One night, a brick through the window scrawled, "Justice for Tommy, rot in hell." That brick cracked more than glass. We hired security, ex-SEAL types with earpieces and dead eyes, but fear festered. Vicky pushed confrontation. Face Mom again. End it. Danbury visits became ritual, plexiglass our confessional. She aged a decade in orange, pearls swapped for plastic beads. I did it for you girls, she'd insist, voice cracking. The affair? Your father's weakness. The driver? A mistake, he promised no harm. Lies half-baked. But in the 4th visit, truth trickled. Tommy. I suggested the route that day. Playdate near the estate. To keep him close for the wedding photos. Close. For optics. My boy, a prop in their pageantry. Rage reignited, but tempered now. Less wildfire, more smolder. We leaked it to Ruiz, off-record ally turned Fed crusader. Mom's deal sweetened. Full confession for leniency. Dad. Stonewalled till a cellmate's Shiv loosened lips. Turns out, the fixer wasn't rogue. Dad's orders, explicit. Eliminate threats to Vicky's match. Chad's firm. Laundered through wedding vendors. The empire teetered, stocks tanking. Hargrove Realty rebranded Hargrove Holdings, a fresh start by some PR hack. Climax brewed in court. Federal sentencing. Manhattan's Thurgood Marshall building a temple of tin gods. Gallery packed. Victims' kin glaring. Reporters salivating. I took the stand in Isabella's body. Vicky's poise bleeding through. Tailored suit from Vicky's closet. Hair in a no-nonsense bob. Your Honor, we stand, not as victims or villains, but architects of our own hell. Testimony flowed. The swap's desperation, the merger's mercy. I became my sister to destroy them. She became me to survive. Gasps rippled. Judge's gavel cracked like judgment. Twist reversed again. Mid-cross, Dad's lawyer dropped the bomb. A sealed letter from Crow, time-stamped pre-swap. Patient Hargrove, Isabella. Neural scan reveals pre-existing fracture. Dissociative identity, triggered by family trauma. Transfer may amplify, not cause. Disordered? Us. Dr. Voss testified neutral. Possible. But environment forged the blade. Jury deliberated 2 days. Verdict. Conspiracy counts dropped for us. Restitution mandated. Dad, 25 years. Mom, 10, with community service. Vicky and I, community, probation, free, but branded. Outside, rain slicked the steps, paparazzi flashing like lightning. A voice cut through. Izzy? Vicky. Chad, disheveled in chinos, eyes hollow. I knew about the trades. Not the rest. But I stayed silent. Confession or con? We. I slapped him, palm stinging. Too late, golden boy. He crumpled, but slipped a thumb drive. Evidence. Clean your slate. Inside. His firm's ledgers, enough to bury Ellis Sr. controversial gift, extortion, justice. We handed it to Ruiz anonymously, watching from afar as indictments flew. Ending unfolded quiet. Foundation launched, Tommy T. Hargrove Center opening in Hartford suburbs, a haven for grieving parents, neural rehab wing funded by liquidated trusts. We split time. Penthouse sold, proceeds split fair, my old apartment reclaimed, Vicky's ghost-approving paint swatches. Romances flickered, mine with a barista named Marco, hers a crush on Voss, but trust? Shattered mosaic. Debatable close. Happy, with scars? By tragic, souls sold for truth? Readers, viewers, once the Netflix bid hit, argued in comments. Empowering takedown versus selfish witches deserved worse. We watched from a dive bar in Bridgeport, beers foaming, laughing till tears came. Tommy's stone gleamed under moonlight, etched, loved fiercely, remembered always. We'd avenged him, or ourselves, lines blurred. But in the merge, we found sisters, not spares. And that, worth the hell.